In this lecture, we will be learning about multi-level inheritance, and this is how the multi-level inheritance is done. Assuming that there is a class A, there is another class B. Now B class is inheriting the A class, and there is another class C which is inheriting the B class. Assuming that the class A is student class, the science class is inheriting the student class, and there is a result class which inherits the science class. So what will be the benefit of it? Let us assume that the student class has a function disp student, science class has a function disp science, and the result class has a function disp result. Now, because result class is inheriting the science class, which in turn is inheriting the student class, the benefit will be this, that the object of result class can not only access the disp result function, which is defined in its own class, but it can also access the disp science function, which is defined in the science class. Also, it can access the disp student function, which is defined in the student class. Let us understand it through a program. See, this is the class student. It has a function disp student. Science class has a function disp science. Result class has a function disp result. And you are making the object of a result class. Let us understand the program from the main function. Here you are making an object student info of result class, and you are sending 6 parameters: roll number, name, Hindi, English marks, and physics and maths marks. So when you are sending few arguments, obviously the Python compiler will look for a parameterized constructor. Of which class? Result class. So control will jump over here, the parameterized constructor of the result class. And all these values 101, bin2, 70, 80, 50, 60 will be assigned to these parameters R, N, H, E, P and M. Assuming that these parameters are representing roll number, name, Hindi, English, physics and maths marks. Now here, in this parameterized constructor of result class, you are invoking the parameterized constructor of the superclass. The superclass of result class is science. And while invoking the parameterized constructor of the science class, you are taking these 6 parameters. So control will come to the parameterized constructor of science class, and these 6 parameters, roll number, name, Hindi, English and physics and maths marks, will be assigned to these parameters, right? From here, you are invoking the parameterized constructor of the superclass. The superclass of science class is student. So the parameterized constructor of the student class will be invoked, and 4 parameters, roll number, name, Hindi, English marks, will be taken along with it. So control will jump over here. These values in R, N, H and E parameter will be assigned to these parameters U, V, W, X, and these values will be assigned to the roll number, name, Hindi, English attributes. These roll number, name, Hindi, English attributes are the instance attributes of the object which is invoking it, that is of the student info object, right? So 101, bin2, 17, 80 are assigned to roll, name, Hindi, English attributes. After that, the control will come over here. There are 2 statements which are not yet executed of the parameterized constructor of the science class. So the values in the parameters P and M, that is physics and maths marks, that is these 50 and 60 will be assigned to the physics and maths attributes. And obviously physics and maths attributes are of the object which is invoking this function, that is of the student info object. Okay. After that, the control will come over here at the parameterized constructor of the result class. These 2 statements are not yet executed, so these will be executed. This statement is computing the total attribute, and which is assumed to be the sum of Hindi, English and physics and maths marks. And one more attribute is computed, percentage, and we assume the formula for percentage is total divided by 4, right? Now see, this is the benefit of the multi-level inheritance. These Hindi, English attributes are of student class. These physics and maths are the attributes of science class, but they are accessible in result class because by inheriting the science class, which in turn inherits the student class, the result class gets all the attributes of both the classes. Okay. So the result class has 2 attributes, total and percentage, which are computed. After that, the control will come over here in the main function. You are invoking the disp result function of the result class. Control will come over here. You are invoking the disp science function of science class. Okay. There is one more way to invoke the function of the superclass by writing the super method and the method name. But be careful, while invoking the function using the super method, you don't have to use the self keyword. If you specify the self parameter, you will get an error. Okay. So control will jump to the disp science function of the science class. Here you are invoking the disp student function of the superclass. the superclass of size class is student. See, while invoking the function using the super keyword, I am not supplying the self parameter here. So I am explaining you the two methods by which the function of the base class, that is superclass, can be invoked. One is by using a super method and second is by specifying the base class name. So control will jump to the dispStudent function of the student class and it will display the roll number, name, Hindi, English, marks. So you got all the four things displayed. Control will come to the statements of the dispScience functions which are not yet executed. So it will execute these two print statements displaying the physics and maths marks. After that, these two statements of the dispResult function will be executed displaying the total marks and percentage. So let us copy this program into the Spider IDE and let us run this. See, roll number, name, Hindi, English, physics and maths marks. This is a total. Total of 70 plus 80 plus 50 plus 60 is 260. And the percentage of 4 subjects is 65%.